Welcome back, you beautiful people. It's your boy Seth Garu Baxter with Maker's Bar, where we're creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. With us today, we have one of those leaders that is going to be a voice of the future, if not already. I was born Black, not a Democrat. If you were around on April 1st, and if you got wind of it, as I'm sure most of you have, April 1st was not April Fool's Day for most. It was a viral speech that went forward, speaking to the Fort Worth City Council. This candidate for the House of the 33rd District of Texas is with us today. She's one of the rising stars in the political spectrum, and she is here joining us to give us her wisdom and her run and a little bit of insight into her candidacy. We are extremely pleased to have this incredible leader with us today. Please welcome Payton Jackson. How are you, Payton Jackson?
I'm great. How are you?
I am well, thank you. I am extremely pleased to have you with us today with the Maker's Bar audience.
It's an honor, but I have to say that intro was the best intro I've ever heard.
I am so glad. Absolutely. I got to tell you, I have put your speech on repeat so many times because as we go into this, it just was the right tenor and it had the right passion and the right pitch that needed to be said. Now, Maker's Bar is a bipartisan platform, but it doesn't mean that we as our hosts and our people cannot recognize talent. And when something has hit home, that was going to make you stand up and pay attention. And that made me stand up and pay attention, as well as I know many others. I just thank you for your bravery and your courage to make that speech and announce, here's where I stand. What inspired that speech, Payton?
What inspired it was I received a lot of criticism when I began vocalizing my stance against the Democrats. I was always expected to be a Democrat. So whenever I would say, no, I'm not a Democrat, I have some conservative values. And whenever you seemingly side with common sense, you get attacked because you're expected to fit in this one box, two-party system, and the second that you step out of line, you face a lot of criticism. So I wanted to point out common sense things. I mean, we're all thinking it. I said it, and it's not politically correct. But sometimes I take pride in not being politically correct, because when we're speaking about things that are common sense and common courtesy, I mean, someone has to vocalize it at some point.
What was the triggering point for you to vocalize it? What were things you were seeing in addition to what you mentioned that might have gotten you further up?
Well, what really embraced me to were the things that I actually vocalized. Like, I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. There is no such thing as a trans child. We have to acknowledge the history behind Planned Parenthood. We need to acknowledge the history of the mass effects on immigration, both legal and illegal. We have to address these things. We need to address that 1991 letter from Mrs. King to Congress and how she goes into detail. They basically go bar for bar. Her and Donald Trump in that last debate with Harris, they basically said the exact same thing. But in our community, they took the term or the phrase Black job and made a meme out of it instead of doing the research on the history in our country. So, I mean, at what point do we speak on facts instead of opinions and feelings when it comes to the Black community and how we vote?
There is so much that I want to get into there, but before we go into some of those depths and those waters where we, as two people of color, we know that in the community, speaking out independently can bring a great deal of criticism, as you mentioned. So I'd like for us to delve into that a little bit deeper as we explore your career. But before we do that, tell us your origin story.
Of course. So I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. My family migrated to South Dallas right after Hurricane Katrina. We moved around a bit and landed in West Dallas, but I am now in Fort Worth, and I've been in Fort Worth for about 5 or 6 years now. I graduated with a bachelor's in accounting. My senior year, I used my last two Pell Grants and I jumped into real estate. I started with Airbnb and then I did traveling nurses as tenants, and then I did regular long-term tenants. But now I only work with Section 8. But my passion that I recently discovered is speaking. I love to speak.
And you
Absolutely.
do it so well. You do it so well. I can understand.
Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, so that's my story. And I'm running for office, but
That's a small detail, right? Now, were your parents politically savvy? Were they involved in politics much?
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No, they
They're
had. It was
not
just
this
something
side of
that,
Democrats either. Yeah. I mean, not this side of politics either. So it's a completely. I'm definitely breaking some generational curses, setting some new
you know,
standards.
and we're going to get into that as well. Now, your accounting background, is that some of what comes into your policies that you're interested in? As far as you have a tagline that's a part of your campaign: "No taxing with Jackson."
Hmm. Absolutely.
It,
So it's kind of weird how it's not very hard to put your name on the ballot for office. They don't really require much out of you. And I would think that you would be required to take some type of finance course or something to run for office, but no, you don't. But luckily I do, and yes, I do plan to use that within my policy. Like I don't think that we should be taxing income. No tax on income. It was a big win at the Senate level recently with the no tax on tips, but I want to see the no tax on income definitely. And there's plenty of ways that we can do it.
one moment.
So I want to see no tax on income. I know we got a big win at the Senate level with the no tax on tips recently, but I want to see no tax on income. And there's plenty of ways that we can go about it. Um, but yes, I definitely plan to use my accounting degree within my administration.
Now, does your economic issues or questions, is that part of the foundational portion of where you're going to use your platform for, or what are some of the other issues that might be as important or just under the no taxation?
So I plan to use the no taxation and a lot of my policies within my administration. The number one thing that I want to see is no tax on income, but I also want to advocate on a local and a state level no tax on housing. I mean, it is insane that we say that we're in a housing crisis, we say that we're in a rental crisis, yet we tax housing. Housing, absolutely not. And I'm not in the business of forgiving taxes for real estate investors because I'm a real estate investor myself. That would be a conflict of interest. But when it comes to people who homestead their property, families, especially generational assets, why are we taxing the average mom and pop? Like, why?
Are we taxing?
Yeah.
Mhm. Tell us about the district that you're running in. What is the geographical makeup?
So District 33 it hits certain parts of the DFW Metroplex. So it starts in Dallas County and then it ends in Tarrant County. So it's two different counties, 11 different cities 15 different school districts, and 40 different zip codes. So the cities range from Dallas to Arlington to Fort Worth to Everman to Forest Hill to Saginaw to Sampson Park to Crockett Hill, different cities, but they all reside within the DFW Metroplex.
Oh, fantastic. So that brings me back a little bit to the some of your other issues that are extremely important to you with the makeup of the district you'll be representing, because I'm calling a win, but with the district you're representing, what are some of the issues that are vitally important to them that you're hearing?
So the local issues that we face here in District 33, the number one issue that I see is standing water. There was a article that recently came out that says that the DFW Metroplex is sinking. Well, one of the major issues with that is that parts of West Dallas, 75212, and even parts of Fort Worth, they're dealing with something called standing water, simply because the city doesn't, or claim that they don't have enough money to put in place proper drainage. But if you go back and you look at funding reports, you'll see that the city of Dallas received $300 million for proper drainage. But when you go and you visit West Dallas, you can't tell. And when our citizens, when our voters, they put in a ticket with code compliance or with 411 or 311, these people just close out the ticket and they do nothing about the issue. They do nothing about the standing water, even when it's literally flooding houses. So standing water is the number one issue in our district, besides restricting houses to, or housing to, illegal immigrants. That,
Elaborate on that, if you don't mind. Elaborate on that a little further.
of course. So right now in Tarrant County, we have the Democrats arguing with conservatives about redrawing the map, right? The Democrats are claiming, conservatives are trying to control the numbers in the district. And my counter argument is Democrats advocate for an open border. When you advocate for an open border, we have to acknowledge the fact that when these illegal immigrants come into our cities, our states, they're not living in gated communities. They're coming to our communities. So when you dilute our neighborhoods with people who cannot vote, what does that do to the district? It controls, it suppresses the vote. You can't make more housing. We can't create more land. So if all of our housing, or if the majority of our housing is tied up with families who cannot vote, how do we change the people in office, especially when you don't have term limits? But along with diluting our neighborhoods with people who can't vote, our school systems are diluted, overflowing. Our resources are being drained. In Fort Worth ISD, half of our kids cannot read. So
what were those grades?
I'm sorry?
What were those grades?
I'm sorry?
The grade levels that can't read when you just mentioned?
It ranges from elementary to high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
So immigration is on your agenda as one of the top issues of concern as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then as far as education in your district you represent, there's some issues there that you'd like to attend to as well?
Well, I think we have a national problem in education, but Fort Worth and Dallas ISD, they're failing, but we have a national issue with our education system. So I wasn't against the go away with the U.S. Department of Education. The only thing that I would have done differently is, sorry, is create a national standard for education. Um, like here in the state of Texas, I'm against the STAR test, but I do know that we need some type of test in place. The main two things, or the main two subjects that we need to focus in on, is reading and math. And I mean basic reading and basic math. Those are the two most important. Outside of that, we need to be talking about trades. Not everybody needs to go to college. Student loan debt is one of the top 3 consumer debts in this nation. Yet we still want to preach that you have to go to college to be successful, and that's not true. It's not. So we need to start talking about, and I mean really pushing trades, and I want to incentivize that on the federal level. But we have to start pushing trades, and unless they're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or something that actually, and I mean really needs a degree. Because I could have gotten my accounting degree in high school had I not wasted time with calculus or geometry or things that we don't use. So we have to hone in on trades, and I want to incentivize that. And I would like to see some type of national standardized test for basic math and reading.
At the elementary, at all levels, beginning at elementary to junior high to high school levels?
I would focus on middle and high school.
And these are significant issues in the Black community as well. And it brings us somewhat circling back to, in taking on some of these issues, because you're running as a conservative independent, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And taking on some of these issues, the harsh reality that we spoke about, and it brings us back to the line that I know will live in infamy: I was born Black, not a Democrat. The encounters you might have had with some of the community, what were some of those encounters? Were they mostly positive or negative, or maybe a combination even? Running as a conservative independent, I mean.
It's a mix. It's a mix because the mindset has always been conservative independent. That's always been the mindset. But when I ran for Congress the first time, I was attempting to run as a Republican, but I didn't know about the petitions in a timely fashion. And then I ran as an independent, and that was a lot easier. That was a lot easier than running as a Republican, no matter the values, because you have to think about it. Most people don't even look at the values. They look at the party.
That's right.
They look at the party. So my values will never change unless I evolve my knowledge base. But I can go between independent and Republican, and I'd still have conservative values. So it's a lot easier to run as an independent than a Republican. But a speech like that, which I'm sure Democrats took as a trash to Democrats, while it was common sense, a lot of people ignore common sense just to idolize a political party. And unfortunately, a lot of those people are our people.
And I find that so interesting, Payton, and I'm curious what your thoughts are. So it seems for a good while, and I think we as a people have been discussing this, we're perceived as a monolith, a voting bloc for Democrats for a very long time. So, I have seen and continue to see a rising swell of independents and conservatives and diverse parties being entered by people of our people. But what do you think has sparked this change where now we're seeing the growth into other parties, but where the perception that we're a monolith? Where did you see that come into play?
Well, and two things can be true. 90% of the Black women voted for Harris. Literally everybody else voted the right way. But at the end of my speech, I said that I see no sign of recourse. And I was speaking on the Black community being hardcore Democrats. I am seeing a change. I am. I haven't ever seen this many Black conservatives ever in my life. And it feels great. Because at first, I was thinking it's so much easier to be a quiet Democrat. Meaning, you know that you're not really a Democrat. You know that you think independently. You know you have some conservative values. You know that the Democrats are wrong on certain things, and just stay quiet. I could have easily done that and just coasted my way in. It would have been a lot easier. But I wanted to stay true to myself, and I was quiet about it at first. I mean, I literally just said that I voted for Trump, and I was never vocal about that just because of the backlash that it comes with, even now. And I think he's doing great. But yeah, I'm glad that people were able to blaze that trail for me.
What do you think helped create this change? Because as I mentioned, I have seen where the voice is definitely becoming very diverse as far as interest from even our people who are, there's newer Democrats from the Black community that are speaking different than the majority of the Democratic Party as well. So I am seeing more conservative Republican Black people, more maybe log cabin Democrats or JFK Democrats, also independent Green and Peace Party. I'm definitely hearing more of that. And in particular, well, actually, I think it somewhat started, I started to feel the groundswell before this last election. But I think more and more the voices are out there now where we're more visible, who are independents and are libertarians, etc. So what do you think began where it became more visible, where we're seeing this now? What do you think was the impetus to that?
I think personally, it was this last election. Maybe just for my generation though, because this last election, I paid attention to. I mean, like really honed in and paid attention to. Like actually watched the debates and actually did my research on both candidates instead of just listening to the media. I mean, really honed into what was going on. That's what woke me up because people were digging stuff up on both people and a lot happened. And I mean, but that vote was kind of easy. At least for me, it was. I mean, it was common sense versus craziness. Another 4 years of craziness. So, I mean, we are well beyond the technology age, so we have a lot, in our hands. But a lot was put out this last election, and if you were
Really
willing
was.
to do your research, it was an easy vote for you. And I've seen a lot of people who were once diehard Democrats just admit that it's time for change in the Democratic Party because this is not it.
So you think a big part of what triggered this was Black people as the largesse of the community were saying it is time for a change of the old guard, and now this particular election was that launching pad to say we are independent thinkers and we can think differently and we're not a monolith. I'm going to vocalize my vote. It was this election that more were paying attention to. You think was a big part of that?
I would say the American people. I wouldn't.
Interesting.
I wouldn't say just Black people. Now, I would shout out the Black men who stood up this past election. Thank you, Black men, and some Black women, but the majority of Black women are still in that chokehold.
Why do you think that is?
With this past election, identity politics.
Identity politics. Explain that for some of our audience so they get that. You and I being around here for a minute, we get that. And I'm sure some of our audience too, but just so we can go into the identity politics and it's how heavy it is weighted on people.
Of course. So even though I look more like Kamala Harris than I look like Trump, I should vote for Kamala Harris, even though I don't agree with any of her policies. I don't think that she can ever form a simple sentence for a response. And I don't care that she grew up in a middle class family. I don't care about any of the work that she's done as a VP. Nothing has stuck out to me on why she has earned my vote, especially with everything that went on with Biden. And she literally said that she wouldn't change anything in her presidency. I should vote for her because I look more like her than I look like Trump. That's identity politics. And I'd rather not do that. While it would be
That's a great.
great, it would be great to have a woman president. It would be great to have a Black woman president. But if that person, no matter if she's a woman, no matter if she's a Black woman, if she doesn't align with my values, why should I vote for her?
What were some of the issues that stood out to you that you cannot get down with Kamala Harris?
Outside the fact that she said that she wouldn't change anything from the Biden presidency, the border was very, very, very important for me. I mean, I'm in Texas. Thank God I'm not in South Texas, but I'm in Texas. So I stand with Texas, and I stand with Abbott when it comes to protecting our border, full fledged. I don't believe that illegal immigration is right, and I think that it undermines our legal immigration process. To quote the great Barbara Jordan. But another one of her policies was her war on truancy. Now, I'm a parent, so that kind of rubbed me the wrong way when she, under her power, she had parents arrested over 10% truancy. So that's I wasn't a fan of that.
I get that. Well, I think this particular election was a great deal that, spoken about as far as the identity of her being a woman, her being a woman of color. And unfortunately, the issues somewhat fell behind as far as importance. And I was very interested in a part of the American public were saying, just vote for her. She's better than Trump. Just vote for her. And I think that some of that got the messages mixed as far as important issues like bringing work back to America, the overseas issues with war and so forth. And some of those were pushed to the back. Speaking of some of those issues nationally, what are some of those issues nationally that are of interest to you to pursue delving into?
Nationally, what the number one thing that I want to see done is Americans taking care of their housing. We have to get housing under control. So nationally, what I would like to see done is placing a ban on who and who can't purchase property in America. I mean, we have to hone in on that, especially when we have homeless vets, especially when we have a welfare system that's crippling. It's crippling. Like at this point in time, it doesn't benefit someone to forfeit Section 8 and let the next person get their hand up, because we all need a hand up sometimes. But how do we push American systems, American citizens off of this system that doesn't better them. So that way we can create our own better economy. So we can be no tax on income. And so we can minimize government overreach. Because I would like to see more jobs being produced in America. And that's one of the number one reasons why I love the whole tariff thing that Trump has going on.
I was just going to ask you about that. Because Texas, if you don't mind me going over this, because Texas is a very unique place because it's somewhat its own United States. I think a lot of us see Texas as its own place. Florida, the last few years, has gotten kind of the reputation of being its own place. You know, they say, well, they're from Florida or they're from Texas. So why do you think that is?
We are our own country. We are. And look, I'm not even from Texas, but I've been here for 20 years and I grew up here, and it's just Texas or Texan pride is just contagious. It is contagious. I love Texas, and Texans love Texas. But we have a lot to offer. I mean, it's the reason why people keep moving here. But I want to see more jobs being produced in America, but I also want to really start protecting workers because we have things in place to protect workers like OSHA and EEOC. But if you've ever had to deal with those companies in regards to protecting your workers' rights, it's a pain. Like in Tarrant County, we don't even have an office for EEOC. We have to go all the way to Dallas. And if you're not in the DFW, you may think that Dallas and Fort Worth, they're just like border cities. They're an hour apart, and that's without traffic. With traffic, which is usually traffic, it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So when you have to travel to a different county just to get the right to sue your employer when you know they're wrong, at what point in time do we actually start making these government systems and agencies efficient? Like, I know we're cutting waste, but I'm excited to see how we can make it like actually more efficient. And if you ask me, AI is the answer there, because it just, I mean, from Tarrant County to Dallas County for that hour drive to hope to get an appointment, but it's a year wait list. A year wait list. Now, I don't know about other counties, but I know in my Metroplex, it's a year wait list just to get the right to sue your employer. So while I'm excited to produce more jobs, I also want to pay attention to the quality of the jobs that we bring, not just in my district, but to the state of Texas and, throughout this great nation.
It sounds like a plan. I'm very interested in also pursuing, since women, period, come into politics and they run for office, there tends to be this gender issue or gender question. Payton?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing a back. So Payton, gender politics, and when a woman enters politics, in particular, like a seat you're running for in the House of Representatives, the gender question comes up. Can a woman be as effective of a leader? Or even the candidate herself brings in, well, because I'm a woman. Do you think that gender in politics should be engaged in conversation, or is it should it only be seen as policy issues? And so whereas a male candidate, the focus is on his policy issues, a woman's issues, her gender comes into how we see her or how she projects as a candidate. What can we do about that? Do you should it be more should gender be inclusive of the candidates run, or should it be really focused just on the policy issues that she's running on?
Absolutely, it should be on the policies. That person, no matter the gender or race, is running on. But back to identity politics. I mean, we have to ask the community to have common sense. I mean, you're voting for a politician for their policies, not for whether or not they're a man or a woman, or nor Democrat or Republican. We shouldn't vote straight ticket. That's just as bad.
That's right. That's right. So now with that, then I ask kind of the trick question: are there women in politics that either side of the fence, or not either side, just being Republican or Democrat, but in leadership positions that you look to for inspiration? And they can be past or present.
Politicians only?
Leaders, women leaders, I'd say. But I'd like to hear some political leaders that are female that you have inspiration from, or you look to and say, even if you differ with their policies, but just some examples of those women that you look to.
I love Harris Faulkner from Fox. Politicians, I would say Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert. And I'm missing one. I love Caroline Levitt. Like, I am in
White
love
House
with that woman. I'm sorry.
She has a tenacity. She has a tenacity for sure.
She's on fire. She's on fire. I know I'm missing someone, and I'm gonna think about it later, and I'm gonna kick myself for it. But those are the main ones. I absolutely love Caroline Levitt. Yes.
And then, and those any who you might disagree with staunchly.
So I don't disagree with her fight. I just sometimes disagree for or with the things that she fights for. And that's Jasmine Crockett. No shade to her. I love her fight. It's just I just don't agree with some of her voting
presentation.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, but I mean, it reaches some people, so I guess it works.
And any male leaders that you draw from in politics or previous positions that you look to and say, yes, I'm curious. They're inspiring. And they also could be past or present.
Eric Mays, Senator Kennedy.
He is something, I tell you.
I love that man.
He is something. Watching him is like watching not reality television, just real life, no holds barred.
Real life. Oh, I love him. And then I'm from Louisiana, so that helps. I like Brian Harrison. He's a state rep in Texas. He's the first state rep, well, the second state rep that I started to really pay attention to. And he exposes how much time we waste on a state level. So I respect him for that. Yeah. Those are the ones that, oh, and Donald Trump. I love that man. Those are the ones.
That's getting that gets you in trouble in the community.
Oh no. They'll be okay. I love them.
They'll be okay. They'll be
those
okay.
Are the ones that I agree with for the most. Ones that I disagree with, Gavin Newsom. Yes. Joe Biden, Barack Obama. Kamala Harris. Um, I should have named her before. And the one that I'm running against now.
Who is the candidate? Give us a little insight to the candidate you're running against.
I can't do that, but I can say that his name is Mark Vesey, and he's been in office for 12 years. That's what I can say.
Okay. And so we are going to be looking toward conversations about your political differences and what you're interested in discussing as far as debates. That's going to be very interesting. Now, Matt, I want to ask, the first book that really made you pause and think, or not the first book, but what is a book that really inspires you and you maybe can read it over and over, but you get a great message from it?
How'd you know I read books? Did we talk about that?
How do I know you read books?
Because most people don't read.
Speech. They don't. And you know, it's crazy. I still have books. I have a bookshelf. I still love reading when I have time. And, you know, nowadays we have so much social interactivity. It's a pleasure and a joy to read a book. But when again, I told you I played that speech, it was on repeat for a while. And just not only the quotes that you mentioned, but the tenor, pardon me, when your tenor and the pauses and the way you wanted to enunciate, that's it. Oh yeah, she reads. I know she reads. And I like to assume, even though I know it's a lost meditative practice, reading books, I still do think there's a number of us hardcore readers out there who feel like reading a book is very not only relaxing, but it's so much an elevation of your mind space. And it should take more rent-free space in our brains as far as how we want to articulate ideas, how we meditate on ideas, and how we can do research. So reading, when they used to say reading is fundamental, I can't express that enough. So that's my perspective on books. So what is a book that you really, your favorite or really inspires you?
My number one favorite is The Secret from Rhonda Bryan.
Okay.
It's a cute little S on the cover of the book. So that's my favorite, but my favorite series is Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Oh, wow.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I love him.
Yeah, I read that years ago. I forgot. That's so funny you mentioned that. I almost forgot that as one of the books that was important to me as well. Yeah, that's very fascinating. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then why did that book inspire you in particular? Why do you like him? We have some technical issues. Yeah. One moment. So Payton, you were mentioning, we were talking about books and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. What is it about his particular book series that had you of interest?
Why aren't those books in school? Had I been given the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series before graduation, I wouldn't need an accounting degree. That book taught me things my accounting degree didn't. Now, I'm not saying that my degree is useless, but it wasn't worth $50,000 when I could have gotten the bulk of it from Rich Dad, Poor Dad series. And it's not just one book. You need the entire series, but he even has a game board that we can put into our public schools. So the fact that we aren't using this crucial channel to relay financial literacy to our kids, I mean, we're missing out. We're spending millions on curriculum that is wasteful, not needed, useless, unless it's industry specific to the route that these kids want to take in high school. We're wasting our time. We desperately need the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series in every public school. It lays down the basics of accounting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt. I actually wanted to say that's such a valuable point because it's been a while since I read it, but I remember similar to Future Shock. It was one of the books instrumental to me in changing my financial awareness and the way I was handling finances. And I really advocate for people to check it out. I think it's brilliant. And to have it in schools, oh my goodness, we would have a different graduate class.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Absolutely. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is there another
Yeah.
book that comes to your mind?
Mm-hmm. What would the Rockefellers do?
That's a book. I haven't heard of that one. What is that about?
Oh, no, you have to. That's another book that we need in our high schools. But it goes over the tricks and the trades of how to use whole permanent life insurance, and how we should basically not only just get that at birth, but definitely before graduation, because you can use or set a foundation for infinite banking, meaning you can go away with the banking system in your life and your family if we just utilize practices within or that's allowed in whole term or whole permanent policies. You wouldn't need your
I
credit. You wouldn't need a bank loan. You wouldn't need necessarily a proof of income. You're not going to a bank for a loan. You're going to yourself for a loan. You're borrowing against yourself.
I have not heard about that. And as I mentioned, I'm a reader, so I'm really glad you said that because I enjoy elevating my mind in that way, put in that direction. So what would the Rockefellers do?
So basically, you take out the right type of life insurance, which a lot of people would go for the cheaper policy. The cheaper policy is your term policies. Instead of going the term route, you go whole permanent through a UIL, and it's a higher premium. But instead of you banking on your death by investing into a term policy, meaning if you don't die in 10, 15, 20 years, you forfeit that money. In comparison with a whole permanent policy, you're paying a higher premium, but this is basically like a savings account. But you can use one, it yields more if you're invested in the right one, but you can borrow against yourself. But you can't
I
do
don't think a
that with a
lot of people
term.
know that.
No, they don't. It's called infinite banking. That's the method that I'm speaking of. But that's why I said those books need to be inside of high schools, because the average savings account in America isn't giving you more than what, 2%, maybe 3%. Um, but if you're trying to keep up with inflation, and I mean really build an asset, because a lot of people hate when I say that life insurance, the right type, that's an asset. To build that right asset, you have to do some type of self-education. We can't depend on the public school system, especially not in the state that it's in right now, because had I learned about whole permanent life insurance before I knew about a savings account, no one could ever talk me into getting a savings account. It just doesn't make sense.
That is fascinating. I've learned, pardon me, this has been an education for me, I tell you, and it does make a great deal of sense. And this is part of that education I feel is very important for our young people, for sure, especially young people of color. Black children don't have some of this information taught to them
No.
unless your parents have had some time themselves in the business world and or education world where they've been able to utilize their finances to give that education to their children. But these are instrumental.
Right, right. And even if they know about financial literacy, a lot of the Black community, we don't talk about estate planning. So I mean, it's one thing to create the assets, but how do we keep them? That's the bigger question. Some people know about wills. Fewer people actually have wills, but very few know about estate. I mean, like trust funds, how to really lock everything in place and control it beyond your death.
We definitely need more financial education or financial literacy in that way. And I agree wholeheartedly. I think that would change a great deal of the Black people and our understanding. And incredibly enough, I think it would also strengthen Black businesses if we had that type of financial literacy at an earlier age.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So along with those books, any others that you want to mention?
I did like Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. I got that from the Rich Dad Poor Dad series as well. But The Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich.
Oh
I
yeah,
love the 48
Napoleon Hill.
Laws of Power. What'd
Oh
you
yeah,
say?
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. I read that as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Oh yeah. So now with the books, I'm sorry, I was just going to say with the books, finances is extremely important to a part of who you are as a politician or just as a business lady, because I see you have this entrepreneurial spirit as well. So financially, there's a great deal that you would use in your platform as a leader as well. I would understand that.
Absolutely. But I've loved numbers since like the very beginning. I've always loved numbers. And I think it's because there's no gray area. You're right or you're wrong. You're over or you're short or you're just right. You're balanced. So I've always loved numbers, but most definitely I plan to not only use my degree, but my self-education. I think that's way more important than a piece of paper because the amount of self-education I've done outside of my degree, I definitely plan to use not only within my administration, but most definitely my policies. We have to stop taxing the American people. We can literally tax anybody else, but American citizens, when it comes to their income and their properties, leave it alone. Everybody else we can tax.
I'm curious. So after running and winning this election, which I'm also saying again, I see in your future, what do you have plans outside of this particular office to take it higher into presidency possibly?
The only plans that I have politically is to make sure that I don't exceed my personal term limit. I never really cared to be a politician. It's just I want to see the changes to be made, and I don't have faith in anyone really to actually make those changes. Or the people I do have faith in, they need a little bit more help. So I don't really care to be a career politician, especially not just in this seat. Is there a possibility? Sure. But I, I, I don't identify with being a politician. I just want to see the changes made. If I can make the changes in this one seat, then I'm out. But my number one thing with that is I don't want to do more than 12 years. I think that our term limits on the congressional level should be 12 years for the House, 12 years for the Senate, and then start to bring in some new faces. We don't need more career politicians. If you can't get the work done in a decade, it's time to move on. I don't think you can
That's very
actually
well
get it
put.
done. So I
I think that's
mean,
well put.
right, right. So is there a higher position or another position that I'll go after? Sure, maybe. But I'm mainly focused on just working on actually fixing the problem instead of asking to be reelected every 2 years with nothing to show for it.
I think it would be so much more efficient, as we mentioned earlier, if people who went into elected positions thought that way. I want to go in here to accomplish a job as best I can within the time frame and then get out and leave it better, because it used to be I want to leave it better than when I came in. So I just, and it's so refreshing to hear you say that and speak about term limits as well, because term limits themselves, politicians seem to not have that in their vocabulary any longer. I want to keep running and running, but term limits, come in, complete, see the task, complete the job, and move on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, okay, so we have to get to some very important issues here.
Hmm.
On your Mount Rushmore of music, who are the top five?
Michael Jackson. In no order. Michael
Okay.
Jackson. Sade.
Oh, you're talking my language right there.
Uh-huh. Fall time. Bon Jovi as one.
So he as the singular artist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, Maroon 5 as one.
Maroon 5.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You wouldn't expect that.
And then the last one, this is a lot of pressure. Usually it's 3. The last one I would have to say Erica. Either Erica Badu or Jill Scott.
Okay. Yeah. I think they're kind of tough to say one better than the other, I think.
Yeah.
Because they're both poets. They're both poets as well. And along with their style, it's just, the neo soul era, I think, is so undervalued for its importance and significance to what it contributed to the music scene. And I'm curious how you think about this, but it was such a golden era of music for us. Wouldn't you agree?
Not only do I agree, I feel like we should go back to it. Like, I can't do the new generation of music. I mean, the R&B I can't even listen to. Like, I can't. Like, the stuff that's on the radio. If we go back to neo soul, like soul music, we'd be better off, especially in the Black community.
Absolutely.
Especially in the Black community.
To me, during that time, I think while we focus on that for a little bit, there was such a sophistication to it and such a style, and it represented such a classy aspect to us. And I think recently at the Met Gala, they were talking about dandyism, pardon me, and dandy, and how we sought after the sophistication of fashion and music. And to me, neo soul was a part of that collective. Angie Stone, Maxwell, a number of those cats.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they blaze trails. It just, I want us to go back to it though. It's like
I do
the
too.
trail kind of stopped, and I hate to say that. I hate to say it, but I don't know any current artist that's doing neo soul. And I may just be
Summer
ignorant.
Walker. Well, Summer Walker and Ari
Okay.
Lennox, they tend to have some of that. And
Okay, I can see.
pardon me. Yeah, they have some of that. And there are some artists. The unfortunate thing is, I think music has changed so much that there's not a focus on the stylism the way it used to be. And I think that's where it's missing. And going back, or at least including more artists, because there's a number of other artists as well. But including some of those other artists, I think we're missing that. We go back to it. Yeah, you and I are on the same page with that. Oh, absolutely. Now, if you had to talk about spirituality, does that play a role in how you choose to govern? Is that a portion of the foundation from whence you would like to lead? Where does that play a role, whatever that might be for you?
And well, he's leading me now. Every day, I wake up, I touch my Bible, and I ask God to stir my heart to do His will. I'm not perfect. But I try my hardest in my walk with God. So I'm very spiritual, and at the times where I'm not, I just keep my faith, or at least try to. But I'm very, very faithful to my God, and I try to be very submissive with listening to His direction.
Absolutely.
Not always, but yes.
I don't know that all of us, and we know that there's an old time expression in scripture that what is it? Oh, now I just went blank on it. I totally went blank on it. But with that in mind, some of the closing words you feel you want to express that would be most important, that you want them to remember you as a candidate for the 33rd district? Aside from no taxing with Jackson, what would you like to say to us if you had a minute just to speak to people here?
I'm excited for America. And I say that with hesitation because I know how stubborn Americans can be. I know. And I know that we have a very blunt president, but I pray that in our future, up until and even after these midterms, that we don't let or allow one person to control how you vote. Meaning, if Trump does something bad between now and then, don't blame the Republican Party. Don't blame every Republican on the ticket. Don't use that as a method or a reason to go and vote straight ticket. Do your research. Do your research on these candidates, on these incumbents, and reach out to them. See if you can get an email or a call back and vote on policy, not on popularity. And to the people who refuse to get registered to vote or refuse to come out to vote, you are allowing a couple thousand or 100,000 people out of your million to control how your districts are ran. Don't do that. You are an American. It is your right to vote. And some would even say it's a privilege, because it is. So exercise your right. But please, please do your research.
I think that's perfect. I can't emphasize that enough. And I've mentioned a couple of times in speaking to some of the politicians and working with young people in youth and government, a program I'm extremely passionate about. Do your research. Don't just vote on party, but do your research so you know which candidate, whichever party they come from, if they're aligned with how you see what's best for you and the country, you, your family, and country. Do your research. I'm extremely pleased that you mentioned that, because I don't think that's emphasized enough. It's vote race or vote gender, vote religion, vote do your research and vote according to that. I think that's extremely well put.
Thank
Payton,
you.
where can people contact you and reach out to support your campaign? We here want to be able to support as much as possible, getting the word out about your candidacy. Where would people be able to find out more about your platform, your issues, and the district that you're running in?
Of course. The number one way to contact me, to look at all of my policies and keep up with my progress, is on my website, which is notaxingwithjackson.com.
Notaxingwithjackson.com.
Yes.
Fantastic. And in going out, Payton, I want to thank you. Truly, Maker's Bar has been really involving itself in the political sphere, and we want to be representative of a bipartisan platform that welcomes guests from all different parties. But I have to say, this has been a thrill for me, like going to see Michael Jackson in concert, or Bob Marley, who going to see him in concert, or Shirley Caesar, the gospel singer. This has been like that for me, because once I saw what you spoke, how you spoke to power, and the courage it took for you as an upcoming and inspiring leader, it's just exciting to me to have you on as a guest. And not only because you're beautiful, but your intelligence and your tenacity. And I'm just extremely excited to have you as a guest here and see everything that you're going to be doing in the upcoming election.
It's an honor. Thank you.
It's absolutely my pleasure, my honor. Well, folks in the Maker's Bar audience, we have to, again, thank candidate Payton Jackson, and I'm sure we'll be soon calling a Representative Jackson to be a part of this show today. The revolution that we're looking for is called the Lovolution. Let's continue to fight for a revolution of love. If you have any friends, or you continue to enjoy the content here, please press like, subscribe, and share. Let them know what we're doing here with Seth Guru Baxter and Maker's Bar, where we're creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. Again, take good care of yourselves, people. Good love to you, beautiful creatures, and we'll see you next time. Payton, thank you so much for joining us again. I'm looking forward to speaking with you as our friendship continues to grow.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless.